Hi there, I'm Susan Caruso, founder and director of Sunflower Creative Arts, and you are with us today listening to the Sunflower Bridge podcast.
And I'm Lindsey Mills, the co-creator of Sunflower Bridge, and we are so thrilled to talk about children today with our special guest, Elizabeth Licht, who came to Sunflower originally as a Seedlings teacher. Seedlings is our mixed-age preschool program for 3 to 6-year-olds in Delray Beach, Florida. And then after 6 years, transitioned to the Little Seedlings side of things, which is our program for 2 and 3-year-olds as they transition away from parent and child programs into a drop-off program. And in addition to all of her experience with early childhood education, Liz is also an enthusiast of mindfulness, a student of yoga, and actually a certified yoga teacher. So we are so thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lindsey and Susan.
Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about how you came to work at Sunflower, and I just want to hear how it affected you, the impact that Sunflower and the experiences, because we've talked about it a lot. And so how did you come to Sunflower originally?
So I started out my career on a completely different trajectory as an attorney, and I decided to take a break and stop when my kids were little. And the more time I spent at home with them, the more time I think I realized it was impossible to go back and be a lawyer again. Mm-hmm. I really cherished that time, and being a lawyer just stopped making sense. So I went back to school and I got an early childhood master's. And during that time, I learned so much about early childhood, and a lot of what I was learning in the classroom didn't really jive with when I went and did my clinical work in schools. It was much more regimented. It wasn't play-based. It wasn't what I thought of as developmentally appropriate. Mm-hmm. And when I found out I was moving back to Florida, I was made aware of Susan and Sunflower and that they were opening in a whole new big space and needed teachers. And when someone told me about it, it was like this dream. It was like, wow, I get to teach in a way that's really how we're meant to teach children. Mm-hmm. And that was just so exciting and beautiful. And it was a nice place to learn and grow as a teacher.
I remember you were one in the first team that opened up our new space, and it was the first year that we were at a licensed preschool. The program could be licensed from our old space, but the space itself couldn't be licensed. So it was really important, and I remember just really interrogating you. And,
oh my gosh, you did. You really interrogated me.
And it was
the vetting process.
A couple of different tea times together, and then, sitting and talking philosophy and over. And I remember you saying, I'm a lawyer. I've done many job interviews. I have never done anything as you put me through a gauntlet here.
Right. So,
but you were the perfect one to come on board to open up our space. We had a whole new team, and so it was really a very exciting time, a scary time too.
Yeah.
But terrific to have you on board.
Yeah, and it was so fun to grow and change with Sunflower from that first year in the new space and learn on my own. I'm just like the kids. I had to learn through doing it, and being in the space and being outside with them and being present with them. So, yeah.
I kind of always think of one of the hallmarks of Sunflower, and specifically Seedlings, as being the number of teachers, the ratio of teachers to children. And so I'm curious, was that your first experience where you were one teacher of a few in one class, or did you have a teaching partner in previous situations? You know, what did you think about co-teaching with others at Sunflower?
So, you know, it was definitely different. And when you let go of all the things of like, wow, somebody might be judging what I'm doing, somebody else might have a different idea, you get to really like learn and grow together and bounce things off people and hear their opinions, and you get to observe their way of doing things with the kids. And then you get to reflect, you know, how can I incorporate that into my teaching? Or how can I not, and I don't mean this in a judgment way, how can I revise that? Or how can I make it more suitable for me? And so, and now, you know, even though I don't teach the Seedlings anymore and I switched over to Little Seedlings, look, when I look and I see like the Seedlings teachers and I see like the beautiful growth, you know, in 8 years and like my growth in that time. And I don't think it would have been the same if I didn't get to work with other teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I think to myself, like I heard the other day of somebody who's starting to teach in kindergarten in public schools, like in one of the local counties. And they have 20 children and they don't even have a helper. And I thought to myself, wow, like, how can that be? Like, how can they just be there with like 20 children by themselves? And then I got to have like these other 3 teachers to bounce ideas off of. And
So we have 4 teachers to 25 children.
Right.
And then we're a parent cooperative, so there are parents that are in the space.
Right.
And I'm in the space when I'm there, and Lindsey gets in the space when she's there. So it's a really different approach. Yeah, it is kind of mind-boggling for us to think of the responsibility of so many children and one adult.
Yeah. So it's a lot, right?
And what you said that struck me, I think, is the reflecting quality. And it made me think of this quote that you brought to us today, and just that idea of your thoughts and identifying with your thoughts. Would you like to share this quote with us?
Yeah. So, you know, and this is what's nice about having the other teachers in a space with you, that you can pause and you can reflect. And I do think I bring a lot of my mindfulness and yoga thinking into my teaching. So one of the definitions of yoga that I love is stillness of mind is yoga. So it's not really all these postures that we're doing. Stillness of mind is yoga. And then we experience peace within. Otherwise, we believe we are our thoughts.
We believe we are our thoughts.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, as like we all know, working in an environment like Seedlings or Little Seedlings, like we're outside in nature and we're connected to children and we're connected to nature and we're connected to all these things that we create with our hands and our beings. And so we're so much more than our thoughts. And in the Western world, we just think we're our thoughts, right?
Yes. Yeah, we become identified with them when I think my experience often has been when I'm in this echo chamber, when I'm only paying attention to me and what I'm doing, then it's so easy to become super critical and to get in a loop about like I'm doing everything wrong and I can't get it right. And the problem is I'm not connected.
Right.
The problem is I'm just focused on my own self. rather than reaching out and saying, do you know what I need?
Yeah.
Can you help?
Right.
Have you felt this way before?
And the thing is, really, that's so normal, right? The spinning thoughts, like we're all human beings and we have so much to do and so many places to be and so many children to juggle and things happen. So that's the norm, and we don't like beat ourselves up for it. And then we can go into a space where we can just like pause and we can just take a moment. And then when you do that, even with kids, like you pause, you take a moment, and then you really see them for who they are, instead of what am I going to do next with them and how am I going to solve this problem for them, and you just see them, and it changes everything when you can see them.
I remember a few years in, there was a child who was having a hard time transitioning from lunch or something like, he had gotten his lunch and he was just having a meltdown, and you took him by the hand, and I think just very quietly you may have said, do you want to sit on the hill with me? And the two of you walked and you went and sat on the hill, and you weren't talking to him, you weren't doing anything with him, and you were just maybe you were eating an apple or something like that. You were just being with him. And that was so profound. And we talked about it afterward, because I said, wow, that is exactly what he needed. And you knew it because you were really seeing him. You weren't in your mind or running through the checklist of teacher things to do. You just observed him, and you could see because you knew him, and it was obvious that what he needed was just to be himself and to be with someone else, being with them, not doing with them or doing to him or talking to him or,
Fixing,
all of those things. And I'll never forget that moment. That was, a really beautiful, profound moment.
Yeah. And I think those beautiful, profound moments come from all the moments where you might not have done it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get to the beautiful, profound moments simply and easily. You might have that moment of mindfulness where you think to yourself and you reflect and come back and say, oh, there was a different way I could have handled that. And that continues to happen and continues to happen, especially as parents, right? Or as teachers. And then all of a sudden, there's that beautiful moment that you kind of work towards. And those become more of the norm. And you might go a little
practice.
back and a little forward. Yeah.
They call it a practice for
Yep.
a reason, right?
Yep. So, I think one of my moments of realizing that is, in my first couple of years, there was one child who didn't want to always be part of the group. And in my adult mind, I wanted to fix it for her and make her part of the group. I wanted her to feel that sense of belonging. And she was always outside and always watching. And she could tell you everything that the group was doing and everything that was happening there. And I just felt like, oh, she's afraid. She's scared. I have to help her not be scared. And then, it kind of comes to you in just one of those mindful moments where you just let it go that maybe that's not what she really needs. Maybe that's me thinking what she needs. Maybe she just needs to watch and observe. And maybe that's going to be her superpower one day, that she watched and observed. Yeah. So when we're not observing kids and seeing them for who they are, we're guiding them towards something that might not be their superpower and their potential. So it really makes a difference, I think.
Oh, I know that for me, having occasionally, not every teacher I had, but from time to time, I would have a teacher who really saw that I was extra sensitive, or that a certain assignment, like I needed this extra twist, or, just feeling like I was really being seen for my uniqueness. I think those are moments that I cherish as formative because it's reaffirming. That's what I thought. I thought that about myself. And then this person I respect affirmed it for me.
It's so cool when that happens.
Yeah, it just takes one teacher sitting and being with you for one moment for you to change your attitude about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the I see you moment.
Live for it.
For sure.
You know, and so in Little Seedlings, working with parents, that's what we want parents to do with their kids too. You know, we're always, and wow, like, you know, being a parent is so humbling. You know, like we all make those mistakes and we want so much for our kids. And we don't really have those reflective moments, and we have to for their well-being of who do they want to be, not what do I think is best for them to be. And so that's what's so nice about Little Seedlings. You know, you get to have those discussions, and I think that's what's nice about the bridge journey that you both do. You get to have those discussions with parents, like, you know, who is your unique child, right? Not who is this person that you're going to mold to be someone else.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you know, what other things did you see? In Seedlings, we have parent helpers that are there sometimes, but literally in Little Seedlings, the parents are part of the program for the first 5-8 weeks.
Right.
And so you are there, a whole group of 13 children, 13 parents or so. And so what did you find most interesting, challenging, rewarding about those relationships?
I think one of the most rewarding things is kind of when you get to, you know, you spend all this time with the parents, you know, first in that intensive, like, I guess, 12-week time, 8-week time, I guess, that they're there in the beginning. And then they still come back in as parent helpers regularly. And so they're learning how to, you know, let the children lead, and they're learning, you know, how to respond to children in conflict. And they don't know it in the beginning, just like I didn't know it when I first became a Seedlings teacher. And then by the end of Little Seedlings, you have like your 2 parent helpers with you there, and you could kind of step back and you could just like watch these parents doing all the things.
Spread their wings.
It's so exciting. You know, they are, you know, intervening in a conflict in a way not only that I would have, but in a way I can learn from, which is amazing. You know, like they might take what they've learned and carry it to a whole new place, which is so absolutely awesome and amazing, but their own special touch on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so much growth for the children from 2 to 3 years old, 2.5 to 3.5, whatever it is. And then, you know, you've got not only those little people, but their parents who are looking for that support and building their own confidence and trying to figure out who they are as parents.
Right.
So what an amazing workshop between the kids and the teachers and the parents.
Yeah. Like we're all learning together. And it's so cool.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's like the whole reframing I think we need to do as parents, as teachers, in any grade, at any age that your children are. You know, you don't look at it as, I'm just teaching you. It's more like we're all learning together, because I think that's what every moment offers all of us.
Yes.
So that's the coolest thing to see, I think.
When you learn about mindfulness, I think you get into this habit of reorienting and coming back to your center, even as you get knocked off by various things. But it's that understanding that that's how it is. It's not that you're eventually going to just smooth it out and then never have to struggle again.
Exactly.
It's that we're all going to keep making mistakes, and we're keep observing each other and keep dialoguing about these things so that we can all benefit.
Right, exactly. It's exactly how it is to me.
And you're learning from the children, and the children are learning from you. It's reflexive. It's not one way.
It's not. It's not one way at all. There's, so many things like I've learned from watching them and parents and things that I can extrapolate and take, to my relationships with other adults.
Oh, yeah.
Like you get on a little child's level and you look at them in the eye when you're trying to have a conversation with them and you're giving them all that attention. And it's easy to do that, I think, with a 2-year-old, right? You get down on their level and they're squishy and sweet and you look at them and, you're trying to connect with them and really hear what they want to say, what they're saying. And it's sometimes hard because their words sound funny and everything. And then, like, if you think about it, as like a child becomes like 5 or 6 and 12 and 21, it's harder to because you can have a distraction and you don't get to. I think that's one of my bigger lessons, that I can take what I do with these little people and I can really try my best to bring it to the adults in my world, right?
We need it.
Yeah. And Susan, you always make me think of this. This is the one thing that I learned, the best lesson I've learned, amongst many, is with kids. Always look to the need behind the behavior. And when I started to work more with the parents and the adults, and they would get upset because maybe somebody pushed their child or they were worried about dropping their child off for the first time alone. And I remember going, oh my gosh, it's just like with the kids. What's the need behind the behavior? They really need? They want that security and to know that their child is safe and loved and cared for. And so when you look at parents and people like that in general, it all becomes different, right?
Yeah. Compassion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got compassion.
That's a great example. Yeah. I am always struck by the similarity that it is all just being a human at the end of it. It's not about how old you are.
Yeah.
And throwing it to yourself too. Why am I acting like this? What is what is the hunger, the need, the longing?
What does my inner child need right now?
Right. Or when somebody does something to make you mad, right? And you're reacting wow, what is deep down there making me mad? And you can bring it back to the class, being outside or being in a classroom with kids. When something they're doing is triggering you, what is it in me that's triggering?
Yeah, and how can I take a breath right now?
Yeah.
Rather than leaping into change the situation that the child's in. Unless there's imminent danger. It's like
Exactly.
we just overcompensate sometimes with our adult brain.
Right. You can wait and see, can these children solve this for themselves? What is scaring me so much about this child being in a tree right now and climbing, where, what is it all about for me?
Do you have any stories that come to mind about a child in Little Seedlings having one of those leaps, where you're really nervous for them, but you found it in yourself to make the space for them?
There was probably, that's very, very, very day to day happenings. One of the more recent ones I think that was hard for me is I had 2 little girls pushing and shoving, but in fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was rough and tumble play, which you more typically see in boys.
Sure.
And then I've typically seen it more with seedlings, with the little bit older children. I hadn't really seen it with 2-year-olds. And these girls were kind of pushing and pulling and having fun. they had smiles on their face.
Okay.
So I kind of had one of those frozen moments, like, what's happening here, and what do I do? And I really had to like take that breath and think about it, like, how do I do this? And they don't have as much language, so it's not like you can explain it as well.
The rules of wrestling.
Yeah, the rules. like what are the rules?
And yeah.
I just remember telling myself, they're still smiling. Everything is okay right now. Nobody's hurt, and they're having fun. And so my first inclination was to go and stand closer and be there just in case it shifted. And I used a little bit of the language, is everybody having fun here? Is this fun for everybody? And then like the smiles and the nods. And I just stayed close, and I kept doing that. And I kept making sure they were in a place where they were not going to get hurt. And at the same time, I could see that being overwhelming for another adult, especially, you're taking care of people's precious children, right? And, you're there as a parent helper, and you might not have seen that. And then you might have. There's a lot of parents whose kids are rough and tumbling all over the place. So I did not grow up in a household that did that. And my own kids just didn't do that.
Right.
So for me, it was like, so I had to move past that and really just be next to them. And if I hadn't been witnessing that over the years, my inclination would have been like, oh, no, you can't do that. That's not okay. So.
Yeah.
So that's one story, I think.
There have been so many times when you've written amazing pieces on that whole big picture idea of each of those little importances, of being in nature, of letting children move, of honoring the adults and respecting the children and the adults in the space. So the idea of being there and experiencing it and then writing it, you've told me in the past, that sort of solidifies things too, the journaling that we do as teachers. Right. And
I'm curious, what is your kind of reflection process like personally like?
I love going back and reflecting, and when I write stories that I share with the parents too. So one of the things I love to do is second guess myself in stories that the parents are going to read.
Cool.
So that the parents will see that I have self-doubt, that sometimes I do wonder, and I don't mean self-doubt like in like this, oh, I did it wrong kind of way, but more in like this, I wonder, curious way.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Like, or is there a better way I could have handled this next time, so that parents and newer teachers will see that it's okay to make a mistake, that we're all humans and it's not perfect.
And no one is the authority.
So like what if in that situation that I just described to you, maybe that was not the right decision, and maybe it wasn't the right decision for all teachers, or or maybe there was a parent that might have read a story where I described that and written a comment, well, I think that's kind of scary, that rough and tumble play, and then I would have had to been okay with, wow, maybe that parent's not going to be okay if I let their child play in a little rougher way. And that needs to be okay. Like, we can have a conversation about it. We can be open about it. Maybe we can talk about, is this appropriate for this age group? Maybe there is a different way, and that's okay. So I like to write in that reflective way of, how could I have done this different? Or maybe I could have chosen this, or maybe this would have been wiser, or suggest alternatives. And then I also like to reflect on like what have I learned from the children, what have I learned from the parents, and then of course the successes of the kids, and how they come to their, I think that's the biggest theme in my writing, is how if we get out of kids' way, Yeah, they figure it all out. Like, we are no smarter than
Yes.
they.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my predominant theme.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, mindfulness. Just so funny how that really underpins so much of the philosophy we love and uplift at Sunflower. It's just, if you give kids room to figure things out, stay close. You know,
Because you're going to
be
learn how
there.
to figure it
Yeah,
out.
Right.
not because you're going to save them from something, but because they might
Right.
surprise you. They might teach you something. Yeah.
Always.
Uh-huh.
That's the key thing, and I think that that's a lot in your writing is that wonder as a teacher and as a human being with other little human beings, is the wonder of what they teach us, what they show us, and so that's amazing. It's been really wonderful talking to you.
I know.
We could just stay here for another couple of hours and
so
dive
fun.
into lots of other different things. But, maybe you'll come back again.
Yes.
Yes.
Part 1.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. If you have thoughts that came up during our conversation, please share them with us. You can send us an email at Lindsey, Lindsey, at sunflowercreativearts.org, or you can find us on Instagram, send us a message at Sunflower Creative Arts. We are so grateful to Schweitzer Musical Productions for sponsoring the podcast. We'll see you again soon.
And thank you to Elizabeth Licht for being our special guest today.
Thank you both.